we will only allow as much pleasure as we believe we deserve. So I want you to close your eyes, and when we think about pleasure and how much pleasure you think you deserve, we can say, oh yes, I want to invite a whole bunch of pleasure into my life. I got this. But subconsciously, there are some belief systems that are there. There are some value systems, wherever they came from, that shaped our threshold for pleasure. So I invite you in your head, in your mind's eye, close your eyes, or you can put your gaze down towards the floor if you feel comfortable. And I want you to have a number in your head on a scale from 1 to 10. When we think about pleasure, how much pleasure do you really allow into your life? How much pleasure do you really believe you deserve? And wherever you are, I want you to know it's okay. It's okay to be where you are. And to just let it be a place of openness, of curiosity, and just holding space for where you are right now. So as we keep our eyes closed, you are welcome here. You are worthy and deserving of pleasure. You are safe. It is safe for you to be in your body. It's okay for you to feel free. Pleasure is your birthright. You are worthy and deserving of connection. Breathe into all that you are and all that you are evolving into. You are safe here. And you are safe in community. Now, as we keep our eyes closed, I'm going to guide you through somatic breathing. You're going to put one hand on your heart center, because this is where, life has made us a little guarded, huh? This is where we guard up. We put walls up. Sometimes within our own selves and with others. This is the allowing to break free, just to break free of some of that we are holding on to. With our other hand, you're going to put it on your belly. Because this is how we connect to our bodies. With life moving so fast, we can be so unconscious sometimes, moving from the next thing to the next thing on the calendar. This is your time. This is your space. This is just for you. So I'm going to guide you through 30 breaths. 30 breaths out through the nose. We are going to let stuff go. Now I want you to hold in your mind's eye when we think about sexual rupture. I want you to journey inward and really reflect in this inner inquiry about what it is along your path that caused rupture in your own inner erotic that keeps you distant or lovingly disconnected from who you are and all that you want to be. How is this sexual rupture keeping you from being present, keeping you from connecting, keeping you locked in performance or avoidance or cycles of rejection? We're going to breathe out through our nose in counts of 30, in a 30 count. And then at the top, we're going to hold that for 10 seconds. And we're going to breathe through our nose like this, like you're frustrated. Like that. Does that feel, are you feeling that? All right. So we're going to start together. We're going to do 30 of those counts outward. Then we're going to take a pause. We're going to hold for 10. And then we're going to start another 30 count. And this time we're going to be inviting intention into our bodies. Let it out. What are you holding on to? What is keeping you disconnected from your own body, from your own awareness? You get to break free from this. You get to be open now. Let it go. You don't need to hold on to it anymore. You can free yourself from it. Let it go. Let it go. It is safe to let this go. Let it go. Let it go. It's safe to let it go. If you need to exhale through your mouth, do it. Breathe into that chest. Let it go. Oxygenate your body and let it go. Let it go. Let it go. You are worthy of letting this go. You have been holding on to it for far too long. What is it costing you by holding on to this? Is it costing you connection? Is it costing you from being present? Let it go. 2 more times. Let it go. It is safe for you to let it go. Okay. Now, we're going to hold for a count of 10. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Take a deep breath. When you feel ready, step back into the space. Hands on the heart center. Tell tell me what came up for you. You can keep your eyes closed if you like. You can just talk, shout it out. What came up for you? What came up for you? I can tell you that I do this work because I believe in breaking generational cycles of trauma. That what you are carrying may not just be yours. That what you may be carrying is the weight of those who came before you and the weight of those who you are holding space for. I know what it feels like. I know what it feels like. But in order for us to have soul-quaking connection, it requires us to be present in our bodies. It requires us to have freedom, to allow. I see a room full of big-hearted humans who may give a lot to a lot of other people and are learning to allow and give to themselves. So in the second part of breathing, we are going to anchor in the intentions that we want to have. What do we want to invite into our lives? If we're letting go of some of this stuff that we've been holding on to, that we've been living in our bodies, in our chest, in our hearts. If we let this go, what do we want to invite in? What do we want to bring in? And so I invite you with intention to think about what you want. What do you want? What would pleasure look like if you could be free? Eyes closed. We're going to count 2. We're going to breathe out through our mouths. 30 breaths. Like that. Let's practice together. Very good. All right. So as we're doing that, I also want you to anchor in. I want you to connect to your groin. I want you in your mind's eye, in your body, have some awareness of your pelvis, what seats and houses these organs of pleasure. I want you to sit into it and just have the acknowledgement of it. It could be a squeeze. It could just be a good morning, whatever that is for you. So as we're breathing, I want you to connect to that part of yourself. And as you breathe out, you're bringing in oxygen, and then you're breathing out, connecting down to your pelvis and anchoring that breath in. There you go. 4. There we go. 5. 6. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. What are we bringing in? 14. What does freedom look like? 15. 16. 17. 18. 19. Anchor in. 20. 21. 22. 23. 24. 25. You are healing. 26. 27. 28. Feels good to do it in community. 29. Now this one, I want you to give it a big breath. Hold for 10 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Take a breath. And when you feel ready, welcome back to the space. I want to hold space for how brave it was to do that work. When we breathe and bring intention into our bodies, boy, we can melt away, or at least start the process of thawing even our awareness around our erotic. I want to just open the floor and any feedback or any processing for what came up for you, knowing that this is a safe place and a safe space for you. And just invite you, if something came to the surface that needs some support or attention, that I'm here for you, and we're all here for you. And let's just honor, if we don't say it out loud, let's just honor just the collective healing as well as the collective wounds that we can be carrying, those invisible wounds that only we know. Before we move on, I just want you to repeat after me. I'm worthy. I deserve pleasure. I am worthy and deserving of pleasure. Even if it doesn't feel like your internal constitution just yet, it is the intention to your subconscious that you deserve. It is the intention to your subconscious that you do deserve. So, welcome again to your journey. It is an honor to be here with you and to hold space for all the work that we will continue to do together. This is just a map of what we're going to be talking about, what I'm going to be going through over the next 3 days. Today, we went through our singing bowl welcome as we would do every day, and our breathing. What we just did was somatic work because, again, emotions, our trauma, our thoughts, our belief systems get locked in our bodies. And sometimes we don't have the conscious awareness of it. And so in somatic breath work, it allows us to connect back to our bodies and also let go and process this in a different way. We do not always have the language for healing, especially when we feel it in our body. Because what do we do when we feel any sort of trauma? It by definition disconnects us from our perception of self and our perception. And so it is important for us to use somatic work to be able to reconnect to the body and start the process of healing and letting go. Because we could do it up here. And I, especially as a therapist, I see a lot of work, self included. I like to live up here. This is fun. I know this. But part of our work is anchoring in. We gotta live. We gotta stop living from the neck up and really anchor in. So we're going to go through pleasure-centered healing today and kind of what that means. Tomorrow is letting go. Today we started the process of that. But in tomorrow's practice, it really is more about identifying what are those painful wounds, painful or otherwise, that really could be getting in the way of pleasure and connection and presence. What does that mean for you? What has that meant for you? And how do we really start the process of letting it go? I call tomorrow your freedom day because that's the day. You can start today as well. Please do. But when we really start letting things go, the reason why we hold on to stuff is because it's part of our identity. We have locked in that some aspect of that, whether it's powerlessness, or even I don't know how to be a good lover, I'm not good at this, I don't like my body, other people told me that they didn't like my body. Whatever that is for you, when we start to free ourselves and let that go, then we get to bring in new possibilities for our erotic self. And then the last day, which is Saturday, we'll be going through what I call a pleasure manifesto. It is your intention and your operating agreement for your pleasure moving forward. How do we begin to bring and invite more pleasure into our lives, into our bodies every day? I believe that we're not here to suffer. We're here to thrive. And so many times we keep our head down and we keep going. But how might we begin an expansive awareness of sensuality and of freedom? And how do we begin to see sensuality and our own pleasure in every day? From the way that we eat, to the way that we shower, to the way that we even look at our own bodies and experience even just putting clothes on our bodies and the sensation of something on our skin. How do we begin to tune into those things and not be so unconscious about sensation? Yeah? All right. And so I told you who I am. I told you my why. But I will add to that. Why I do this work actually started when I was doing my master's in marriage and family therapy. we had an assignment, because as a family therapist, we always get genograms. Genograms is basically the mapping of your entire family system. And when I did my genogram and went home and started asking a lot of questions, I realized that there was extensive sexual trauma throughout my family history. It was shocking because, particularly in family systems, there's a lot of secret keeping. And with that, unless I had asked that question, there's a whole part of my history that I would have been cut off from. And so, as a sexual trauma survivor of my own, not even knowing that history, it clicked. Damn. And especially now, I have a beautiful 7-year-old baby girl. And we do this work so that when we pass the baton, she doesn't have to go through this. And that the partners that we're with, we can hold space for healthy connection. We can hold space for loving sexuality. We can hold space for presence and not dissociate, which we'll talk a little bit more about that happens sexually sometimes. So that's what I do. And that is really my why. And so I want you to think about what would be your why, because I believe that sexuality and pleasure has to be anchored to our values. Because if it's anchored to our values, it's something that we can hold on to. It's something that even if we're like, I don't know about that yet, I don't know if I'm there yet, we know if it is important for me to be present and show up for the people that I love, I can do this. I can stretch. I can do some emotional stretching. So let's talk a little bit about sexual rupture. Sexual rupture shows up in a lot of different ways. One of the things that I talk very, very much about and did a TEDx on is how couples and we can all overcome sexual rejection. Because particularly depending on when sexual rupture happened for you, we're bringing our belief systems from childhood, a lot of cultural conditioning, a lot of messages that we got about sexuality. That can be anything from many of my clients say, oh, only good girls do this. And please, I'm not being, forgive me, I'm gender expansive. I'm letting you know what my clients are saying. Good girls don't do this. I can't masturbate. I'm going to hell. Self-pleasure is off the table. No sex before marriage. It could be, whatever my partner wants. And so sexuality, even with sexual ruptures that happen early on, can then turn itself into, if I grew up feeling unworthy, unlovable, undesirable, then in connection with someone else, perhaps their sexuality or what they want takes center stage, and we lose ourselves, and we lose what we want, because we're lost in trying to fulfill and be a good lover and be present for them while we deny our wants and our needs. Then if we're also in a relationship, given the fact that I do see a lot of couples that have been together for a very long time, there is this dance of initiation of sex. How do you know when you want to be intimate? How do you invite your partner to that? Or is intimacy just one way? And are there ways in which the rupture happened in your romantic relationships or in your previous relationships around body image issues or performance? Did you orgasm? Are you there yet? Am I good enough? And so all of these questions come to the surface. Some of us develop what I call bittersweet pleasure. And so bittersweet pleasure is even when we feel it, is pleasure attached to guilt? Is pleasure attached to shame? That even when I allow myself to feel pleasure, Is it? Oh, I can't do that. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. Is there a blame and shame spiral that comes with it? So I just want you to be aware, if that happens for you, you are not alone. You are not alone. And then we also get locked in cycles of avoidance. Start to compartmentalize sexuality. So if sex is really hard to talk about with your partners or hard for you to acknowledge for yourself, what do? It's over there. This is hard for me. So we don't always talk about it. We don't always pick it up and look at it. And so during our time together, I really want to challenge you and your sexual belief systems that many of us have held for a very long time. It's like having an iPhone 5 sexually, right? It's the equivalent that we have been holding on to an outdated software system around who we are, our sexual wants, our sexual desires, but we are operating in a different year, in a different age, as we move on in the same way that we did back then. And so this is also a time to refresh and update your operating system to see what still fits. What do I like about pleasure? What feels good to me? And what have I been doing unconsciously? I want you to take this opportunity to take what has been unconscious to the forefront. What have I been on autopilot with my sexual self? Pleasure-centered healing for me is essential to the healing of trauma. Many times I've witnessed, and I think when we think about healing trauma, we want to heal, we want to get to the next thing, we want to peel back the layers, we want to heal, we want to grow, we want to figure it out. And we can get on this rabbit hole of healing, but we don't do it with our bodies. And we don't do it when it comes to pleasure. So we do all of this work, this good work, this hard work. But then when it comes to reintegrating that, that's where some of us get a little stuck. Because, yeah, we're going to have some trauma responses when we're challenged. Yeah, we might feel fight or flight or freeze or fawn when something comes up that is completely unexpected. But then how might we be able to transform trauma, the trauma that we once felt, into pleasure, into joy? So it's not just a place that you hit, or what I experience with my clients, which is we heal and we think we heal, we do all this healing, and then something beautiful happens, something wonderful happens in your life, and you want to be happy, but you cannot. It is that bittersweet pleasure of, oh, I want to be happy. This feels good, but, and then it's a million scenarios about what can go wrong, or a million scenarios about shame and guilt and fear, instead of really being able to be present with pleasure. And so pleasure-centered healing is really the allowing. How do we have erotic resilience, which is sexuality doesn't have to be perfect. It never will be. There are going to be times that you orgasm, sometimes you don't. There's going to be times where it feels great, and sometimes, oh, bang flag, as I call it. Bang flag. All right. Let's be curious about it instead of blaming ourselves. Sometimes you're going to have desire and a lot of it, and sometimes you're going to be like, what the? Where did it go? And instead of panicking, we can say, okay, place to be curious. Place to be curious. We reclaim our bodies through pleasure. And pleasure-centered healing is acceptance and commitment. And so some of you may have heard of acceptance and commitment therapy. And for me, as I integrate that with sex therapy, there are a couple of things that are important for you to know. One, You definitely are not broken. Regardless of where you're at, oh, we have much more in common in this room than you realize, and we haven't even said a word to each other. And you have no idea the threads that flow between all of us. We have all experienced sexual rupture. We have all experienced feelings of shame or guilt or self-doubt. Absolutely. But it doesn't mean that you are broken. Does it mean that you might have to find a different erotic pathway? Yes. Does it mean that you may have to find and redefine your definition of sensuality? Yes. Might you have to have some conversations if you are partnered, or even if you are looking for a partner, or you're happily glowing in your self-freedom? Yes, yes. This is a time for you to be led by curiosity and expansion. You are not broken. And one of the biggest tenets of pleasure-centered healing is that when feelings, memories, and images and words come up, so in our mind's eye, we might hear a sentence, oh, I'm fat. Oh, I don't lubricate enough. I can't keep an erection. We're going to hear and see sentences in our minds. We might see images in our minds. We might feel sensations in our bodies that are attached to these images. But pleasure-centered healing and acceptance and commitment therapy, we want psychological flexibility. Psychological flexibility is not trying to push away these feelings, because when we push away these feelings, we suppress. What does suppression do? Keeps us further and further away from being present and healing and processing and finding solutions that work for us. And so what does it look like if we didn't run from sexuality anymore? If we didn't run from our stories, because that's what they are. They are events that happen to us, but we have long left the event. But we have the way, the stories that we carry from those events. And so how might we begin to restore them? And when these things, these aspects come to the surface, how might we hold space for them and allow? Have you ever allowed a sensation that felt really uncomfortable? Or are we close? Sometimes we push it away, we numb. I'm a number. It's true. And I think to a certain extent, we all numb. And I think part of my work, I practice what I preach. And so, in really holding space for the thoughts, the images that come up when you confront it. And then, as I give you more tools, but as we confront it and hold space for it and allow it in our bodies and breathe through it and continue to remind ourselves, I'm worthy of pleasure. This is old. This is old. This is not who I am anymore. And we start to replace that with belief systems that support us, that support our growth. Then we start to shift our mindset around sensuality. And so I want you to take 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 minutes. And I want you to, if you have a phone, please screenshot this, because I want you to do your pleasure work. I want you to screenshot this, and this is your work at home. Because this is really, I want you to be able to have a framework to explore, what messages did I get in my family about sexuality? What events in my upbringing negatively impacted my sexuality? How did religion and my faith impact eroticism? How does sexual rupture affect emotional intimacy and relationships? How does power and control show up erotically? And in what ways have I suppressed my erotic self? We're going to start at this one. In what ways have I suppressed my erotic self? So when you have your phone out, I want you to just freehand and journal just for the next 2-3 minutes. Just connect to that part of you that has maybe suppressed your erotic self. Let's journal for the next 2-3 minutes. What do you need?
I can't find my book.
Oh, you don't need your book. Just journal on your phone. In notes. If you have the notes tab on your phone, if you don't have a journal, just you can type in there. Give you 2 more minutes. Let this be open space for you to continue this work. Later on today, when you have some quiet time, just to be curious about the ways in which you may not be as connected to your erotic self as you would like to be. And we're going to name it, because I believe this part of you needs to come forward. You know, some of you are internal family systems people, but, you know, for me, what is your erotic's name? Do you know that part of yourself? And if you don't, how do we lift that aspect of you up? If you gave that part of you a voice, many times when I work with my clients and we tap in and tune into the voice of your sensual self, many times for some clients it skews younger, because that may have been when that sexual rupture happened, right? And so sexuality might have been stunted in that place, or when we're acting sexually, or when we are experiencing sexuality, it might be coming from that part of us, the 19-year-old part of us, the 25-year-old part of us, the 9-year-old part of us that is looking for something, that connection, that longing, being wanted, being affirmed, whatever that looks like for you. If we gave our inner erotic a voice, and we gave them play space to explore, and to give us the messages that we need, this is where your healing lies. And so we're gonna answer these questions right now. What is my erotic need? Just just off the top of your head. Write it down, keep a mental note of it. What do I need in this moment? What do I think that sensual part of me needs? Is it freedom? Is it expression? Is it to be honored and respected? Is it to be held, to be cherished, to be nurtured? Whatever that means for you. And how are you giving that part of you a voice from this day forward? Being intentional about that part of you. As we get ready to close and reflect, we can do this exercise called havening. If anything has come up, I think this is really good just to be able to soothe and downregulate our nervous system. Because I recognize that when we talk about sexuality and sexual rupture, we might be lifting up some stuff that we haven't looked at in a while, yes? And so as we even release things, you might feel a buzzing in your body. You might feel some chatty thoughts or hear some chattiness in your head. That's all right. From shoulders to elbow. We're just going to take this time to soothe ourselves. This is called havening. Havening is a psychosensory technique that takes our brain from stress to rest and digest. This is a tool you can use at any time to facilitate your own calm when needed. Allowing yourself to just touch, feel, and allow yourself to know that you're safe. Hey, you did big, brave work today. I invite you and open it up for any group reflection, any insights, anything that was interesting, anything about the experience today. What was it like doing this? Yes.
Want to make an observation that you have this whole group of probably pretty experienced clinicians in front of you who hesitated at some of your other invites to share today. And that one really struck me. I think there was a lot of maybe discomfort to kind of answer some of your initial questions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what else to say about that other than it struck me as interesting because I know it was hard for me at the same time.
This is hard. And I acknowledge that. It is hard. Pardon?
So thanks for not being pushy about that.
No way. No way. How could I ever be? Because I know how vulnerable this is. Only you know your stories, your pain, your experiences. And so there will, I think, as clinicians and practitioners, we know that we have to hold space to process. But if there's nothing to say, sometimes silence says a lot, doesn't it? And we can be in community even in silence. And I think that we have been. We haven't said that many words. I mean, I did most of the talking. But we were in community together. Thank you for that observation. I appreciate it. Thank you for your bravery in holding space. Yes.
And I wanted to say that also after sexual rupture, opening up and saying something, it's a choice. So not doing it, it's a boundary that is very hard to establish after sexual rupture.
Yeah.
At least for me. So not opening up about my own privacy or what I feel is my privacy is now a boundary
Yeah.
which for me is a huge step forward in my own journey. So I think it's not a black and white, but it
Yeah.
can also be, it took a lot of work to stay quiet, to not overshare my story, my private happening, whatever, where the pain is. Not that I haven't talked about it, but choosing where to do it is also
Oh, no. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You made a choice, and a brave choice. We all did, right? Because you chose to be present. There was a present awareness that everybody had, even if you weren't sharing the details of your stories. And that's not what the intention for today is. The intention for today is to kind of pick up and look at these pieces of ourselves that we don't always get to look at, that we don't always pay attention to. How have we been operating unconsciously when it comes to sensuality? And what is still stuck within us? And so I really want you to be intentional today about giving yourself some grace if there are fragments that start to come up, because when we begin to open and let go, please do not be surprised if things start to come to the surface. We just want to be gentle with ourselves today. The way in which you've been gentle and loving and kind to yourselves and everyone during this process, I need you. Your homework is to do that for yourself. You will not beat yourself up today. You will not shame yourself today. You will not say that, oh, I thought this was healed. Why is this still coming up? Because we love to be in our heads. I know it because I've been through it. So we will not allow the mind to take over when it comes to this. Again, the goal is to feel pleasure, is to have sensual awareness so that we are not thinking about pleasure. We are not thinking about sensuality. We are sensuality. We embody sensuality. We embody pleasure. Thank you for that. Anything else?
I didn't feel the need to speak because I felt connected energetically to people. Just sensing the community and you holding space just meant that I could be there energetically and not feel I had to turn it into a narrative.
Absolutely. Come as you are. Come as you are. Thank you for that. Thank you. So, give yourselves a round of applause. And thank you for doing beautiful, amazing work today. I am wishing you all the best on the day ahead. There are a lot of sessions today that you can find yourself in. And thank you for spending your morning with me. Thank you. Thank you.